people think it's the Broadway League that comes up with this. And it technically is, and it technically isn't. Technically, it's the theater owners. It's the the committee of theater owners that votes and decides what theaters, first of all, if this person deserves that honor, and how many theaters will do it. But the problem that always comes up is that the inconsistency of who gets the honor and, of course, how many theaters are lit. In Marion Maisie's case, 6 theaters are going to dim their lights in her honor. And their justification for that number was, well, those were the theaters that she performed in over her career. But I believe she performed in more than 6. When I saw the press release, I could be wrong. I did not see the Vivian Beaumont Theater, where she was the replacement for The King and I, where she replaced Kelly O'Hara, was on that list. So I have to go back and double check that. But 6. This, of course, set off a bunch of people saying there's no way in hell that 6 is enough. You're talking about one of the most consistent performers and just amazing accomplishments left and right over the past 30 years, and only 6 are going to dim their lights. That's a problem. And you had major people. I'm talking like Audra McDonald, Melissa Errico, Leslie Margarita, all came out and said, that's not enough. Dim all of them. I wrote a couple articles on this too. I think all of them should be dimmed because, we can debate folks, praise or legend status. What makes a legend? Who's a legend? As opposed to a star or a star of the moment and things like that. There shouldn't be a debate when it comes to Marion Maisy. There shouldn't be. And we can, you could say, well, she never won a Tony, but she was nominated 3 times, but she never won a Tony. Okay, fine. But here's the one thing that she has over many, many others. She is a member of the American Theatre Hall of Fame. And of all of the 400 some odd people in that group, I think only about 275-ish are living. That's a select group of people. And to be inducted into that space means that you have accomplished something that is noteworthy. It's not something that just it's not an honor that anybody wins. And if you look at this year's inductees that were just announced, that's a murderer's row of talent and contributions to the American theater stage. That accomplishment alone should qualify her to have every single theater in New York, all 41 Broadway theaters, dim their lights. If you want a measurable accolade statistic without getting into the debate of contributions and legendary status and all these other things, her American Theatre Hall of Fame induction should guarantee that all 41 theaters dim their lights. And my good friend Aaron Quill, who writes the Fairy Princess Diaries.com, which is an incredible blog, you should read it sometime, pointed out that this honor of dimming the lights has a terrible history when it comes to honoring men over women. James Gandolfini, another one of my favorite actors of all time, tremendous actor, Tony Soprano, nominated for 1 Tony, was in 3 Broadway shows total, all 41 lights dimmed. Robin Williams, another guy I admired growing up. This doesn't take away anything from my admiration of these individuals, but only appeared on Broadway twice. One was technically a concert, never won a Tony. All 41 theaters did. George Steinbrenner, owner of the New York Yankees. Don't get me wrong, contributor to theater. I think he donated a ton of money to different causes, different theaters. I don't know if he was actually a producer of anything, but a huge benefactor, in terms of giving, philanthropist when it came to causes on Broadway. All 41 lights. When it comes to women, Jan Maxwell, 5-time Tony Award nominee last year. 2 theaters dimmed their lights in her honor. Tammy Grimes, American Theater Hall of Fame member. No theaters dim their lights. And she's a member of the American Theater Hall of Fame. Not a single light. And now you've got Maren Maisie, 6 theaters. So, as Aaron Quill correctly pointed out, that is a terrible history to have. So that's why I think going forward, we need to do 2 things. 2 things need to happen. Number one, either there needs to be clear-cut guidelines of who gets the 40, like this, 21 gun salute, who gets the 41 theater salute. And I do think that the American Theater Hall of Fame should be the standard, because it's a actual, tangible thing, that's it. Or, if I say or, we're getting to that issue again. That's the standard. 41 theater salute, boom. And I also think that Actors Equity, some of these unions, these other groups that can certainly can impact and force change and things like that, need to come up with also their own salute. Whether it's the night of the passing, every show that night gives a standing ovation for the person. Every theater in New York, there's an insert put in the playbill. Or every theater in New York, puts their image on their marquee that night. No dimming of the lights, just put their image on the marquee. I don't think there will be any confusion, if you're going to see Hamilton and you're going to be confused by seeing someone's picture on the marquee instead of the Hamilton poster. I don't think you're going to get lost. So again, I think there needs to be a different honor, but it has to come from the community itself. Because these people deserve it. Maren Maisie deserves it. She gave most of her life, all of her life, you could say, to the stage. And then following her battle with cancer, we initially got word that it was in remission. She gave everything she had to fighting the disease. So again, I do think there needs to be just a little something. It doesn't have to be much. Just a little something to, like I said, pay tribute properly. But I could go on about this for the entire episode, and I definitely don't want to do that. We got plenty of more things to talk about on this podcast, so let's move on. Let's move on to the Broadway musical theater outlook for 2018-2019. There are a slew of musicals coming out this year. There's a lot of them. I think there's like eight or nine new musicals that are going to be opening on Broadway. Some of them have already opened, and more are on the way. So that's a good number. Good crop of things to choose from when it comes to not only what show do I see, but also what might get nominated for a Tony come next June. So let's talk about it, because it's been an interesting season so far. And I'll be honest, I don't think this is being mean in saying this, but the first couple shows that have opened this season have not been, widely accepted, critically praised, or financially successful. And that's just being honest, folks. I'm not trying to be mean, just being honest. But here they are. And if you're following along on our video feed, you can see some images up here. So here they are. And they are the 3 musicals that have opened up so far. Head Over Heels, the Go-Go's musical, Pretty Woman the musical, and Getting the Band Back Together. And obviously, yesterday, because I'm recording this on a Monday the 17th, Getting the Band Back Together closed yesterday. So that's gone. Head Over Heels. Before we get to Head Over Heels, Getting the Band Back Together, wasn't surprised at all they're closing. There was no buzz about this show before it opened. The critics just absolutely just savaged it, tore it apart. So it was not going to survive very long. I have mixed opinions about Ken Davenport as a producer, but that's for another podcast. And he wrote the book apparently for this. So yeah, it wasn't. I wasn't shocked at all when I heard the news that this was closing, and it's unfortunate because I know some people in the cast who were amazing artists and performers, and they just deserve better. They just deserve better. That's all it was. But again, that no surprise that that show cut out early. Um, it was a long shot. Head over heels. Moving on, based on the music of the Go Go's. Little bit better critic response. I mean, I would say it's mixed to negative in a way, but like I said, there are a lot of admirable things about this show when we talk about things like gender fluidity, empowerment. I think I love the Go Go's, so I have no issues with the score whatsoever. But again, jukebox musicals are hard to sell in certain circles. It's not doing well financially. I think when we look at the box office reports I saw a couple weeks ago, it's definitely near the bottom. I would be shocked and surprised. And again, for those fans out there, I'm not being mean, just being honest. I would be shocked if it's open by Thanksgiving in the holiday season. Like that's all I gotta say. Like I would be shocked if it's running that long. Pretty Woman, another show that got negative reviews from the critics, but praise of individual cast members, which I think is important to point out. Okay, I mean, I didn't love it. The music didn't really catch me, to be quite honest with you. When I walked out of the theater, there wasn't a single song that I was like humming in my head or anything like that. So, I think there's a lot of, in this 2018 post Me Too society, I think there's a lot of problems with a show like this. And just watching the cast up there, I mean, they're trying their hardest. They really are. I mean, I love Samantha Parks in this. She's got a great voice. She's it's one of those parts where she's equally trying to be Julia Roberts and equally trying not to be Julia Roberts in the show. But it's tough. I mean, this is Julia Roberts' most iconic role, flat out. So it's a tough role to fill. Andy Carl, I don't. When I saw him, he didn't look like he was having any fun in this. I think he was just, hey, I get to perform with my wife, Orpha, who is amazing as always. I love her voice, so much power in that. But again, like I think he's just like it's a job, it's a paycheck. I'm not winning. I think he's in this perfect sweet spot to kind of go for the gold in a way. And this is not going to be the show that's going to do it for him. But what are you going to do? There's been a very famous article about this algorithm that's predicting like doom and gloom for Pretty Woman. So I'm gonna believe it. I have my doubts that it's gonna make it to the new year. I would be shocked if it's still open by come Tony season in the spring and summer of next year. It's just my feeling on it. So these three shows, I mean, lackluster start, you could say, to the 2018-2019 musical theater. And this is what it looks like going ahead. I mean, we've got The Prom, King Kong, Be More Chill, The Cher Show, Tootsie, and Beetlejuice. Officially, I should say, so far, in terms of new musicals. If you are to believe Michael Rydell from the New York Post, as some people do, sometimes I do, then you would think that Tootsie, the buzz on Tootsie is good. That's what he said in his latest piece, that there are a lot of people saying that Tootsie could be the big one going into this year's Tony season. We'll see. The Cher Show had some issues in its opening in Chicago, so I think hopefully they've kind of ironed those things out. I got to be honest with you, I'm not excited about Cher music. I never have been, but that's, again, my own personal thing. I think obviously she has a large fan base, so I think that they will definitely turn out for that show, but how critically well will it be received since it was not in Chicago? We'll see. We'll see that. I think, when even Cher herself says that it needs work, that's saying a lot. And I definitely trust her opinion. She's not going to lie. So The Prom, I'm going to call it, folks. And I said this in another article. I have high hopes for The Prom. I'm going to call it my dark horse, darling. I'm hoping that it gets the buzz that it deserves. I listened to some of the show at last year's BroadwayCon, and I think it has a promising score. It's got a relevant storyline. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed. And one of my favorite actors, are a couple of favorite actors are in it. I mean,